Hi, and welcome back to Wandering Wild. It's Forgotten Friday, and today we're going to talk all about the red wolf. Okay, so the red wolf is a wolf species of North America. Now, this particular wolf species is listed as critically endangered by the IUCN. However, in all reality, by 1980, it was listed as extinct in the wild. Now, today that's not necessarily true, and it's actually kind of a complicated case. So we're going to talk all about the red wolf, how it came to be, how it came not to be, and then how it came to be again. Are you ready for this adventure? So as the name suggests, the red wolf has red coloring. Now this coloring is mostly found behind their ears and down the sides of their legs and tail. The rest of their body is more of a grayish brown color. Now, in North America, we have three large canid species, excluding foxes. And these are the gray wolf, otherwise known as the timber wolf, the coyote, and the red wolf. Now, the red wolf is kind of intermediate in size between the larger gray wolf and the smaller coyote. And there's some controversy on whether or not the red wolf is actually a hybrid between a coyote and a gray wolf, but more studies and more research suggests that it's actually its own unique species, especially seeing how being confined to the eastern part of the United States and coyotes being confined to the western part of the United States. They really didn't have a lot of interaction. Now, that's not true today, but we're going to talk about that later because it actually comes up as a reason for the struggle that the red wolf faces. Now, this red wolf was native to all of the eastern United States and is more than likely the first wolf species that Europeans saw when they came over to North America. Now, being intermediate in size, it weighs from 50 to 80 pounds and stands 26 inches tall at the shoulder. It is about 4 feet long from the tip of the nose to the tip of the tail. Now, when this wolf was in its prime, it was found from the Atlantic Ocean all the way into Ohio and down into Texas. Now, the reason this animal was almost driven to extinction by the mid-1900s is due to a couple driving factors. The first being aggressive predator control. As you can imagine, farmers and cattle ranchers really didn't appreciate their cattle being eaten by a wolf. So often, these wolves were shot on sight. Next, habitat destruction. Now, as far as habitat destruction goes, this red wolf was found mostly in bottomland forests and the deciduous forests of the east. And as those forests were cut down to accommodate agriculture, the habitat of this wolf was lost, and their adaptation wasn't quick enough. They weren't able to adapt fast enough to this new agricultural environment to keep up with the changes that were occurring. Now, the last thing that threatened the red wolf was the coyotes. So whereas the red wolf is very good in dense forest systems, the coyote does very well with flat, open landscapes and even urban environments. So as these forests were cut down, they provided corridors that the coyotes used to move from the west into the east. Now, as this happened, these coyotes and red wolves are close enough in kin that they can actually interbreed and produce viable offspring and hybridize. So this means that oftentimes coyotes and red wolves were mating, and therefore the red wolf line was no longer pure. We're going to talk about that later too because it brings up a very interesting question. Because of these reasons, by the 1960s, the red wolf population was constricted to a small population on the Gulf Coast of Louisiana and Texas. And when this began to happen and the numbers continued to dwindle, scientists realized that they needed to do something, or we were going to lose this large canid species that was important to many people. So that's when they took 14 of the surviving pure red wolves and took them out of the wild. And they basically put them in captivity into a breeding program done by the Point Defense Zoo and Aquarium from 1964 to 1980. Now, after they did an experimental relocation on Bulls Island off the coast of South Carolina and it was successful, they actually declared the red wolf extinct in the wild. Now, this may seem kind of strange, correct? Well, the reason they had to do this comes down to politics and legislation. So the way the Endangered Species Act works, which was very new at this time, is that in order to relocate a species, and things have changed now, but back then, in order to relocate a species or to reintroduce a species, they really needed to be pretty much extinct in the wild, or else funding got a little wonky. And at this point, there were so few red wolves in the wild, they were virtually extinct. And so, though it sounds weird that we had a successful trial reintroduction and now we're calling them extinct, it's actually going to help the wolves in the end, because now that they've been declared extinct, they're going to have all the resources available to them to help this species. And now they know that they have some red wolves that have been bred in captivity that are ready to be released. Now, in 1987, the captive bred red wolves were released onto the Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge in North Carolina. And then they released a second group 2 years later in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Now, of the 63 total wolves released, by 1994, their numbers had grown to as many as 100 to 120 individuals. However, by 2015, these numbers were as low. Now, why is this, you ask? So, even though we may have boosted the numbers of these red wolves, we didn't really fix any of the problems. There was still agriculture, they were still losing habitat, and the coyotes were still there to hybridize with the red wolves. So the question is, what do we do? The thing is, that's where reintroduction and saving endangered species gets really tricky, because sometimes the species you're saving won't help you. Red wolves do not adapt readily to urban environments, and they don't like to be in heavily populated areas. They prefer dense forest without any interruption. Now, the coyote is the exact opposite of this. It has moved into the area and is readily adapting to urban environments, agriculture, and basically busy landscapes. Plus, the coyote can hybridize with the red wolf. So this is where you have to ask yourself a question, and there's no answer to this question. It's an opinion, really. The question is it worth putting all this effort into saving this species that seemingly won't make it in today's environment? Or should we let what's possibly a natural progression of hybridization between coyotes and red wolves occur? Is it possible that because of this change in the coyote's movement over into the east, this is a natural species progression, and that one day we may not have necessarily a coyote or a red wolf, but kind of a combination of the two? And we really don't know the answer to this question, but it's a really interesting one, and it's one you kind of have to decide for yourself, and honestly, we'll just see how it goes. Now, there are other reasons that you might want to save the red wolf aside from ecology. The red wolf is also important to the Cherokee culture. The Cherokee Indians of the East have a very strong relationship with the red wolf. To the Cherokee, the red wolf is known as Waya, who is the companion of Kanati, who is the hunter and father of the Aniwaya or wolf clan. And for this reason, the Cherokee rarely kill red wolves, or did in the past. Now, they also believe that if you are to kill a red wolf, you're going to incite the revenge of the rest of its pack. Now, it's up to you. Do you think the red wolf should be saved for pure preservation of a species? Or is it possible that the natural order is taking place with the hybridization of coyotes and red wolves? It's up to you to decide. It's a very interesting conversation, and one that has been held for 10-20 years, and no one's really decided. So if you have any ideas on the topic or an opinion, please comment down below. And I hope you enjoyed learning about the red wolf here today on Forgotten Friday. My sources are found in the description box below. And as always, stay wild and never stop wondering.